I was gonna say we can go ahead and get started, folks. So let me make sure we're going live and all that good stuff, and then let's hit it. Cause I mean, I already can feel some energies bubbling in this space, and I love to see it. So okay, we gonna get it popping here, folks. As soon as I see that we're live on Facebook, and I do, hello, beautiful people. Welcome to another Mumbo Jumbo Community Conversation. I hope everybody's feeling good on this beautiful Thursday evening. At least, yeah, it's looking all right outside. We're starting to see some blue outside. It's a little overcast today. But yeah, I hope everybody had a good day. We are here for another economy mumbo jumbo. I'm very excited to have Eunice Trotter from Indiana Landmarks here. We're about to be talking about Marcus Garvey and the Garveyite movement here in the city of Indianapolis because there's some history here in the city that I definitely did not know about. That Indianapolis actually hosted two divisions of Marcus Garvey's United Negro Improvement Association, and we're going to be talking about some of that hidden history with Miss Trotter today. So let's go ahead and hop straight into it. So if you don't know what Kheprw Institute is, if you're watching on Facebook Live or something like that, or you're watching here in the future and you don't know about Kheprw Institute, we're a nonprofit organization here in the city of Indianapolis. We've been kicking it for over 20 years, and we're dedicated to building community wealth through social enterprise, youth leadership development, and building strong relationships through conversation, just like this one. And if you would like to support our work, help us keep the lights on, help us keep our affordable housing and food programs and youth leadership development programs going, please go over to donate.kheprw.org, or you can also hit the button at give.kheprw.org, and you can help support our work. We take anything from a penny to $10 million if you just so happen to have it. And we definitely need as much financial support as we can get. Y'all know how it's looking out here. It's getting real. So please go to donate.org, donate.kheprw.org, not donate.org, and help support our work. Okay, thanks, Miss Fair. So yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Every
I'm
time we
going over
have
to 2511. I'll be seeing you in just a very few minutes. I'm going over to be with the rest of the crew.
okay, well, that's how we do here. We're just a very collective culture here at the Kheprw Institute. So you're gonna find us all rolling in a big gang. If you see one of us, there's probably three more around the corner somewhere. So be careful. Uh, but every time we are in a meeting together, we like to do a check-in just to get a temperature and see where people are at, what people are thinking about, how people are feeling before we really hop into the meat and potatoes of the conversation. So today we'll do, if today were a number, what number would it be? If today were a color, what color would it be? And I think in light of us talking about Marcus Garvey today, what is one historical figure that has inspired you and your journey and your path? And I can get us started just to lead by example here. So I'm feeling like a red and black and green, given the conversation we're about to get into today. I'm feeling like a nine. I'm feeling really good. I need some food, but that'll take me to a 10. But just hearing some of the energy that's been showing up today in this space, I'm really excited for the conversation. So I'm feeling like a nine. And then a historical figure that was very informative and inspiring in my journey was definitely Kwame Ture. He is somebody who, another Pan-Africanist similar to Marcus Garvey, but just somebody who like spoke with, I feel like, a level of care and compassion, but also like practicality, not really too into the ideological, but more, what can we do to put boots on the ground and make this movement a success? And somebody who moved with the thought that like I'm going to win in my lifetime. And that's something that I have always really appreciated. So I'll pass it off to Mimi.
Hola. Hey, folks. Greetings. Hi.
Great.
Hi, it's good to see you. Good to be with y'all. Thank you for yeah, your presence. And I am feeling like California poppy orange and a lavender purple, like a 8.8. And who came to my mind was Janusz Korczak. He was a Polish Jewish pediatrician and a teacher. And during the time of like the Jewish Holocaust, he like moved in with like the orphanage of children that he supported when they were forced to move into the Warsaw Ghetto. But like he was, because he had like connections and resources, he was offered the opportunity to like get out and to flee, but he decided not to, and to move in with them and to like he ended up dying with them in the like Treblinka extermination camp, but like he was a kind of this legendary figure because he like chose to be with the children, with the young people that he cared for and believed in to the end, and literally like sacrificed himself and his opportunity to flee because he believed so much in the importance of being there with them, even though he didn't have to. Um, so shout out Janusz Korczak, and I will pass it to who? Rasul.
Hey, how's it going? Name's Russell Palmer. I am a 6.5 blue, and one person that comes to mind is Zora Neale Hurston. I enjoy her work, and I was pretty much happy to respect her enthusiasm and effort to really get to know the subject of her work, the communities and people she really connected with and learned about. Um, especially during a time period where um, even a lot of artistic and academic work were not given its dues for women, especially African American women during that time. Despite that, she built a very huge body of work and material that I still enjoy today. So I'll pass it to Sky.
All right. I'm gonna go with a one today because it's Taurus season and Uranus is in Gemini and things are happening that are weird. So, um, my color, I'm gonna go with bright red. Like, why did you get your fingernails that color red? Because, and then I was kind of wavering between Frederick Douglass and Josephine Baker. So I think that I'm going to pull on the power and the just the moxie of both of them. Josephine Baker, as a performer, she is someone that I'm definitely channeling now. It's performance season in general. And then Frederick Douglass, My Bondage, My Freedom. Just thinking about that, considering where we are politically, and just going back to the conversation at the top about ringing alarms. So let me pass it on to. Um, I apologize. Oh, we got the whole crew over there. I see Miss Fairface and loud in. That's in. We'll go to the posse over there wherever you move down to 2511. We'll go to the 2511 crew.
Hey, Fair, you
Yeah.
are fully muted, my dear.
Thank you. I'm yellow 10, and my figure is Ida B. Wells. You know, I remember when I first read about her. I mean, she had a newspaper, and she wrote about lynchings without fear, and there could be no recriminations for her. And she wrote about it, and she, no matter what, she kept putting it up to to bring it out and not just, oh well, that just happens. She wrote about it and wrote about it and wrote about it. And so, to the detriment to her own safety, she wound up over in England for a while, but then she came right back and continued with support to write about lynchings and how it was, to let people know, others who kind of knew, but she brought it out into the open. How about you, Em?
Color is trickster, red and black. Numbers, rock with 11 for intuition, ancestral intelligence. And this is a hard question because there's so many
Mm-hmm.
figures, historical, those that have no longer on planet Earth, and those that still rocking, still carrying on. So I think I'll go today with Sun Ra, and then I'll pass it to Alvin. Alvin.
Hello, everybody. I am feeling like a yellow 10. And I would say two came to mind. Well, one, I'll say Frederick Douglass. I think there was a great, what was that documentary that was released recently? It was about the Civil War. Frederick
Oh, that
Douglass and Abraham
three-part
Lincoln.
series, yeah. I forget the name, but it was really good. Yeah. He was dealing with Lincoln.
Lincoln's Dilemma. It was
Yeah,
called Lincoln's
Lincoln.
Dilemma. Definitely
Yeah.
look it up. It's really good. But it kind of told the story of Frederick Douglass' relationship with Abraham Lincoln, but also kind of the undercurrent of the larger society and their influence on Lincoln and vice versa. So, and I'll pass it to whoever.
Dada, are you ready?
Would you like to go? Number, color, and historic figure that
Okay.
inspired you.
Hello, my color is sky blue. It always gives me hope. And then the historical figure for me is my great 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 aunt, Dr. Rendy Gray, that was born during slavery. And I sat at her feet as a young child, and she got me into my medical practice, and especially with the herbs. Her important point to me was to make sure not only take care of the body, but the mind and the spirit. She was an awesome person. She watched her mother being sold on the auction block in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. And just when I'm wanting to get discouraged, I think of her and their resilience. So I'll pass it to the next person.
Yeah, I think I see Chinyelu in the building, so we can pass it off to you next, brother.
Hey y'all, what's the question today?
It is a historical figure that was inspirational to you.
Inspirational to me. Right on. I'm feeling like a coconut green 10 today, and a historical figure that was inspirational to me. Um, um, I'm gonna say I'm gonna kind of follow Mama Dada's example and pick a relative. My great, I think, grandfather Thompson Burrs was a member of the United States Colored Troops, the division that was from Indiana. So, yeah, that's just a fun little part of my family history that always just makes me feel really grounded in how long my people have been involved in the struggle to free ourselves. So I'll pass it. Has anybody not gone yet?
I think we got Demi and Tara left, and Miss Trotter.
I'll pass it to Demi.
Pass it to Tara because it looks like Demi got off. He saw that we were about to call on him and dipped.
Hey y'all. I'm feeling like a navy blue 4. Um, Two names came to my mind, Toni Morrison and Octavia Butler. Um, I remember reading The Bluest Eye in like middle school or high school, I think middle school. Um, and then I read Parable of the Sower last year. Um, and I think that both of their work, um, just how they're able to be so vulnerable and so raw, um, in describing the conditions, um, that their characters were in, and then also just like fascinated by the historical context that they were able to pull for their work to create these stories. I was just like, wow. I thought it was beautiful and uh, just a talent for being able to tell what's going on in the times and to create a world, um, that they did and how people just like survived, uh, and thrived. And I'll pass it to Miss Trotter.
Okay. I like my sister, uh I think it was Sky, Jim. I'm a Jim too. And my color is red. Um Number wise, I think I am a 10. 10 is in numerology means it has some deep and profound meaning because it combines the one and the zero. It represents new beginnings and the universe's infinite potential. And so, as far as a person, I would select my own great grandmother, Mary Bateman Clark, who in 1821 filed a lawsuit in Vincennes, Indiana, that went to the state Supreme Court. And that lawsuit became one of two that helped end slavery in Indiana that wasn't supposed to be in existence. And in fact, slavery continued here even after that state Supreme Court decision into the 1830s. So I remember and recognize my ancestor in whose spirit um, her blood flows to me. So
Appreciate you, Miss Trotter. I think I saw Miss Pambana slide in as you were checking in. So Miss PB, we're at the check-in phase. Is color number and a historical figure that was inspiring for you in your journey?
So my color is gonna be uh turquoise today, I think. And my number is 11 for illumination. An inspiring figure for me, uh, hmm, I'm gonna say, let me see if I got her name right. I think she was a Zulu warrior queen. What is her name?
Nzinga?
Not in Zinga, but I'll take that. I can't remember what her name was, but yeah, that inspired me to be that there were women warriors who were always engaged in fighting and against oppression and things like that. So, and I'll pass it to whoever who hasn't gone.
You were our last person to check in. So thanks everybody for joining. once again, we are joined by Miss Eunice Trotter, and they are the director of the Indiana Landmarks Black Heritage Preservation Program. We are here to talk about the ongoing legacy of Marcus Garvey in Indianapolis and beyond. So, Ms. Trotter, I think I'll just pass it to you, if you want to go ahead and take the mic and run with it, and we'll follow your lead as far as things you might want to share or where you want to start off. So, I'll pass it to
Okay.
you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. So I talk a lot. So when you're ready for me to stop, just, throw me a life raft or something. I have so much that I want to share. Just so you guys know a little bit more about me personally, I am director of Indiana Landmarks Black Heritage Preservation Program. And this program was created 4 years ago through a grant from the endowment to uncover, document, and preserve and/or restore Black heritage sites and history. So I work statewide. We give grants to Black institutions that are nonprofits, mostly churches, because that is what remains of most of our institutions now. Um, and we also have an intern program and a scholarship program, and we are taking scholars in internship applications right now. Got to pick somebody by Friday, two somebodies for internships paid, and 4 scholarships, $5,000 each. So, I grew up on the east side of Indianapolis in the Martindale area. And the Martindale area was not always known as Martindale Brightwood. It was Martindale. It was very racially divided from the Brightwood area. So Martindale was a segregated area back to the early 1900s. Um, and in that neighborhood, we were very self-contained. We had our own groceries, our own schools, our own churches, our own community centers, parks. It is the home of Douglas Park, which at one time was the only park African Americans could go to in the city of Indianapolis. We couldn't go to any other park. And some very aggressively prevented us from coming to those parks, such as Riverside, as an example. So that was how we grew up. I grew up in a Garveyite household. My father was Garveyite. So you say, what is Garveyite? Garveyite is a collective named for Marcus Garvey, who was a Jamaican, who in the early 19 teens came to America after living around the world, seeing the condition of Black people internationally being very similar all over the whole world. And so he created an organization called the Universal Negro Improvement Association, UNIA. And this organization's purpose was to get Black folks together to stop pushing their way into places where they weren't desired, they weren't wanted, and they were, matter of fact, forbidden from being there, and to do your own thing, create your own movie theaters, create your own grocery stores, your own restaurants, your own everything that you need as a people. And so he also preached some back to Africa um, leanings, although he never went to Africa himself. So he came to Indiana in about 1915, 1916. And here in Indianapolis was started up to 3 Garveyite divisions, UNIA divisions. Around the state of Indiana, there were 11. This was in a time when Blacks were making the most progress ever in terms of economic empowerment and collectivity. We were doing better than we had ever done here in the state of Indiana. So on a national level, of course, as always, there came haters who reported that he had sold stock to a shipping company he created. The Black Star Line was a shipping company, was in the business of shipping goods to other nations, including the continent, for the purpose of economic benefit to people who are part of the movement. And so he sold this stock using the mail. He was arrested and he was convicted, went to prison. He was deported from the United States. He ended up getting out of jail, moved to England, stayed there for a while, and he ended up going back to Jamaica where he eventually died. But in the meantime, the Garveyite movement continued on. Here in Indianapolis, it was led for the longest period of time by a man by the name of Thomas King. Thomas King was the owner of the King and King Funeral Home, which was located at 15th and Columbia in the Martindale area. So it kind of explains why my own father got so involved with it, because that's where we lived, and he lived right down the street and ran a business right down the street. And so King, being an entrepreneur, was connected with, other entrepreneurs in the city. So that result was that there were a lot of educated, middle class, and grassroots people who were part of UNIA. The office on the east side was at 22nd and Andrew J. Brown, which was known as Martindale, right where my church, Scott United Methodist Church, sits today. There were also divisions located on Boulevard Place, 21st and Boulevard, which used to be a middle-class Black community, teachers, dentists, doctors, lawyers. And then there was one on the west side, around the Indiana Avenue, and even into the Hallville area. We are having on June 19th a program that focuses on this movement, what impact it had here in Indianapolis, and what impact we hope it will have in the future here. As this brother by the name of Stephen Golding, I'm going to share my screen so you can see the poster. As Stephen Golding, who is from Jamaica, and he is the president of the Kingston division of UNIA, will be here in town. And so he is a Garveyite, and he has been traveling around the country. He spoke before the United Nations about UNIA and the need for its movement to continue, and particularly to address some of the issues that we're having today as a people. So we'll have Brother Golding speak. There's going to be a discussion that Ebony Chappelle from Mere Indy has agreed to moderate this, which I hope she can do. I know she will do a good job. Along with Professor Ronald Stevens, he's from Purdue. He's a Garveyite expert, as well as Jeff Strobel, who is a researcher that I hired, who has become the expert for Indiana UNIA in all things Garvey here in the state of Indiana. So that's going to start at 5 with a showing of the movie Mosiah, Mosiah. Mosiah is about Garvey. And you can see trailers on YouTube now. So that's going to be free at 5 o'clock. 6 o'clock, we're having a discussion. And at 7:30, we are going to party like it's the 4th of July. But it's not. It's Juneteenth. So we're going to have a great time. We have live entertainment, buffet. We're, suggesting African attire. You don't have to if you don't want to. But definitely, just please, we want that word spread because we want to fill up this place. We hope that we will be able to touch some minds and some hearts, and to break us from the chain thinking of believing that if we aren't in Carmel, then we have not arrived. So we have got to do something. As we see our neighborhoods gentrified, that old house they didn't want because grandma had it is now worth $1 million. It has been fixed up. Yeah, we have an issue with resources, but there are resources out there to help. Yeah, we have to have the desire to keep what we have. So anyway, I want to stop right there and just, have a conversation.
Yeah, let's do it. Does anybody in the room have any questions for Miss Trotter?
I have two. We'll start there. Uh Miss Trotter, you mentioned the uh UNIA branch that was on 21st and Boulevard. And I've been doing a project about the development of that whole near Northwest community from the early 1900s up to the present day. And I was just kind of wondering, like, do you know when that particular division opened and when it closed its doors?
I can send you the name of my researcher
Yeah.
and a phone number because he would love to hear from you. I have
Yeah.
family that lived over there too. A girly Brewer was one of them who lived on that in that same 100 block.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to put into the chat my researcher's name and phone number. I'm sure he'll gladly tell you what knows.
I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate that. I've been like my family has you mentioned grandma's house. I grew up in a house that my great great grandmother bought, I think in the 40s. And it's been in our family for like several generations off of the 2600 block of Highland and Boulevard. So
Great,
um
great.
and like I learned in the research for that project, there is no 21st and Boulevard anymore because they cleared it out and turned it into Senate and put the highway and the hospital in there. So that's just a really interesting piece of history that I think, I don't really hear that get talked about a whole lot. That's a lot of our community and infrastructure that was like scooped to make way for the interstate. So, um,
Yeah, we call it
but
erasure,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that's what happens.
My other question though is like, and it's a little bit more broad, but I know that there was the whole Indiana Avenue period, which I think would have been around or like following, like immediately after, like Garvey. And, we've got like our, Pan-Africanist community, Kwanzaa community here in the city now. So I was just wondering if you could maybe speak to like the way that like the Garveyite movement in Indiana kind of like laid the foundations for some of like or did it? Like what is the
Oh yeah,
relationship there?
absolutely, absolutely. If you think about this, I mean, this is just a symbol of its impact. It was UNIA's red, black, and green flag that we behold today.
Yeah.
That has been a symbol of Black nationalism. It was through the Garvey movement that was created and that has been embraced. The Nation of Islam definitely had influence from the Garvey movement. Malcolm X's mother was a Garveyite. And I could keep going. Right here in Indiana, Henry J. Richardson was Garveyite. Madam C.J. Walker, entrepreneur extraordinaire, was a strong supporter of Garveyites. In fact, held a major fundraiser for Marcus Garvey at her home in New York. So these kind of people who are entrepreneurial, um, who were game changers, who were history makers, were all a part of that movement. I believe people also like Lillian Fox, who was a journalist, was a Garveyite. Benjamin Osborne, who preceded Julia Carson as Center Township trustee, he was a Garveyite. He was also Caribbean. It's really interesting because a lot of the impetus of the Garvey movement it was uh, pushed on. I'm trying to think of the language to use for it, but it proliferated through the Caribbean community that had been located here in the United States. And in fact, Garvey did send people from Jamaica and other spots in the Caribbean to America to spread the news and the values and principles of Garveyism. So More than you asked for, but I gave it to you. I told
No, that's
you.
that. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's real important context. So,
I
There
have
was all.
a question.
Yes,
Did
ma'am.
somebody else want to talk?
No, that was me getting ready to run my mouth, but you go right
Okay.
ahead.
So my question is, uh, currently, can you tell us if there's still UNI chapters across the United States? I don't know if you know how many of them there are, and is their focus currently? What are they focused on, and what are they working toward?
Well, I do know that there are chapters still in existence in the United States. I do not think there are any here in the state of Indiana at this time.
Mhm.
Um, for example, there's one in Cleveland, and I've had contact with them, and pretty much exactly what they focused on back in 1920. That was to bring our people together and to have them work in collective ways, sort of what Kheprw is doing right now. So, if I look at the Kheprw family to me moves like Garveyites, right? And,
Mhm.
because you're a collective. And again, even though the UNIA was a black movement, it was not a racist or a separatist movement. So, and here's something that's really interesting to me that I learned about Marcus Garvey. He met with the Ku Klux Klan because what he said and that really gave him a black eye in history because what he told the Klan is, you know, you feel like you feel fine, cool beans. But maybe we can work together because we don't want to push into your places either. So let's work together so we can have ours and you can have yours. Well, that gave him really a bad rap. And so, it made him lose credibility, particularly with the people who, for example, were really instrumental with the NAACP, which was not organized by Black people, just as a little tidbit of history there, so you know that. The NAACP was not an organization organized by African Americans. They were involved, but it was not an organization that was organized by Black folk. So so the short answer is yes, there are Garveyite chapters, UNIA chapters. There is none here in the state of Indiana, although Stephen Golding, who's going to be our keynote speaker, would like to see one here.
Mm. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, and folks, feel free to just jump in. I don't want to have to pass you the ball. I know y'all got the good questions for our guests tonight, so feel free to hop in wherever you got something. And while folks are thinking about questions, if they didn't have one, I was curious. You mentioned that your father was a Garveyite, and I'm just curious, like how that experience informed you in your path. I know you've done a lot of work here in community. Miss Fair was just singing your praises, and that alone tells me of all the great work you've done. So I'm just curious how that um, experience and how he as a role model influenced you in your work and community.
Well, I really at first didn't know what to make of my dad because he, to me, he was a resistor, I called him. He refused to go into the military after he had tried to voluntarily go in earlier. And so when World War II came, he was drafted. He became a conscientious objector. He went to jail for that. And so he was very suspicious of anyone who came to our door who was not Black. They could not come into our house. He was entrepreneurial. He never worked at a job. He was an electrician, so he did work for anybody, regardless of race, creed, or color. However, he did not want to be an employee. He wanted to be an employer. And so that pretty much is carried through the male line of my family and female because I have been the very same way. Um, you know, um, that kind of influence. It was really interesting because my mom was just the opposite. My mother was stay-at-home mom is what she would be known as today. And she was real soft and gentle, and he was hard, intolerant, angry. Um, he very much promoted any kind of entrepreneurship. So in our community, we had the watermelon man, the ice man, the lawn man, the juice man, and all of the bootleg taxi cab stand man, you know. And so he really applauded them. So and he did that in front of us, which made us feel like, that was something that you're going to get praise from dad if you are an entrepreneur. And I think what it did is when we did get integrated, I don't think we had those insecurities and those experiences that some Black kids have when they grow up in integrated settings and they feel like they've been discriminated against. I've never felt like that, growing up until I got to high school, which is when I became a part of an integrated setting myself. Um, so I remember my teacher gave me a paddling because I chewed gum. My father wanted to come to the school and murder him because how dare you touch his daughter with a board? Because we didn't have that kind of discipline in our family, hitting with a board, you know. So he missed going to jail over that when he saw I didn't die from it. But I think in all, it was a very positive fact. He was very much a believer in knowing your family lineage, which, it was very important to him and in our family, and to other people who are Garveyite. You know who your people are because studies will tell you this, y'all, that when children know their lineage, they know who they are, they have more self-confidence, they perform better in school. They have fewer disciplinary problems. They know that the world doesn't revolve around them because they know that they are a box on a chart of boxes and boxes and boxes representing other people in their family. They know they are a part of a collective, of a whole, of a family. So, we always knew our family. And so, sometimes when you grow up with that kind of grounding, you might be perceived as arrogant or uppity. I guess I would have been considered uppity back then, but I didn't care because I didn't care. But that's not me at all, really. I know who I am. So, and then that way, I tell my kids, look, if somebody calls your name because they went to integrated schools, I told them, if somebody calls you the N word, but I would just tell them what it was. Look, you better not come home crying, and you better not answer. Oh, you gonna answer? If somebody calls you stupid. So I would teach them. It's not what's. And my father did the same thing. Not what somebody calls you. It's what you answer to.
So, um, how would you, or I guess like, in your view, how has that mindset, you spoke to that entrepreneurial spirit. Um, how has that like translated and evolved over time? Like how is that like Garveyite instinct manifested in our people in our communities today? Like are there any move and I know you mentioned Kheprw, but are there any other like movements or organizations that you see that are really like carrying on in that spirit?
Well,
Or
yeah.
yeah, I got a question after that, but yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted you. Or what?
Well, no. I have another question after that, but I want to hear your response to that
Well,
one first.
yes. The answer is absolutely yes. I can name other organizations that are operating in the collective, that they are supporting one another, that they are becoming self-reliant. Aspire House, as an example, over on the West Side. That couple, black couple, has converted a firehouse into a beautiful living community play workspace. I talk to young people all the time who are out there hustling, trying to create businesses. My own granddaughter created her own business. So yes, that entrepreneurial spirit is out there. I think a lot, there's a lot of discouragement that occurs, because they can't get financed, funded like they maybe want to get funded. Personally, right now, I am forming a entity called the Cultural Collective. And this is an organization that has one primary mission. And that mission is to have a heritage center for African Americans, period. It won't be segregated. If white folks want to get in, I'm welcome. Come one, come all. However, this will be controlled by us. So, in other words, as Garvey said, we want to be the boss of ourselves so that we can then um, do the things that we need to do the way we want to do it, uncensored. And as you all know, particularly, I'm sure I'm sitting here with creatives. Um, we are censored. I look at Tony Rappert; his art was taken down from Newfields. Right here at Landmarks, I couldn't have a certain program here because of the content. So we want to be uncensored, unbossed, and we can be that, but it takes work and commitment. So yeah, I want to see the young people particularly have the resilience they need. That's what my concern is. Do you have the
Mm.
resilience? Can you hang in there? Can you hang in there? Because as we know, it takes resilience.
So, I guess like more in that lane, do you see any lessons from like the historical Garveyite UNIA movement that are applicable to, people who still live in that spirit today, or, you know, even like what are things that maybe um what's different about our moment than Garvey's moment, that might require some, additional adaptation or some creative innovation.
Well, I think the particular young people, but they're getting what I call the rude awakening. Far too many of us think that we have arrived. And right today, we're getting a real good understanding of the fact that we have not arrived.
Yeah.
So there's disappointment in them, and then sometimes even anger when they realize that no, we have not arrived. Um, so in terms of what's going on today with people who do have and embrace Garvey principles, I hope they learn from Garvey that if they're going to break the law, you better not tell anybody or let anybody know. Because we have always had people in our community that worked against our interests. And it's hard. I don't even like saying that, but it's true. We have always had people who have worked against our interests. Call them what you want, plants, snitches, whatever. But so we have to be able to, hold our friends close and our enemies closer. Like I said, don't do anything that is going to impact progress. I was telling some young people about the South Africans and their rubber tires. I don't know if you all remember, that was the way they would deal with people who would turn on them and they were infiltrators. They would put rubber tires around them and throw gas on them and burn them up. That was during the anti-apartheid movement.
Jesus.
So I'm not suggesting, don't anybody. I'm not suggesting
I was gonna
that
say,
we
can
go.
you clarify what the recommendation is here, or
Well, I'm gonna let somebody far more strategic and tactical than me handle that one. But I do know that
heard that?
those people still exist here in our communities today.
How did we know how like the federal government responded, but like, was there any response from like Indiana's state or like local government to, you know, that presence in the city, in the
Not
state?
that I know of. No, not that I know. In terms of anybody in Indiana being anti-Garveyite movement and doing things to try to disband, not that I know of. But I
Okay.
do know there was conflict between the NAACP and UNIA.
Mm.
Sometimes it delved into colorism, I know that Garvey and W.E.B. Du Bois went at it. And W.E.B. Du Bois called Garvey a monkey or baboon or something, it referred to his color and his features. And he called him something that referred to his biraciality. So I know there was some of that stuff that was involved too. Um,
Some things change and some things stay the same.
something, exactly, exactly.
Ms. Trotter, you mentioned this idea of like, just continuing to fight for progress. And I'm curious if you could uh I guess just provide your own definition of what does like progress mean to you in this context, and what do you think progress means in the context of Garveyism? Like, what is the ultimate end goal for what you would see that as? Are you trying to get us back to Africa? You know what I mean? Like, what do you see as the ideal progress, if you have a definition for that?
Well, to me, my ideal progress is on a micro level. And my ideal progress is to not have to deal with racism and sexism on a daily basis. Like give my body a break from weathering. And weathering is the impact of those kinds of interactions on your body, on your DNA, because that DNA is then passed on to future generations, and it comes out in all kind of forms. Um, my ideal progress would to be able to have the basic things that we as a community, as a people need. I'm sure everybody on here is real rich, doing well, but I have gone into some households that are just horrendous in terms of the lack of resources, and not just financial resources, but the know-how. People who come out of families that, um, failed to have any education, dropped out of school, sixth, seventh grade level kind of stuff. And now they're, in their 30s and 40s, and so my ideal of progress is freedom from that. Basic human needs being met. And then I think from there we can take it. But basic human needs being met. And those needs are in jeopardy. I don't know, you've been to the grocery store, or to KFC, but you pay $24 for 8 pieces of KFC, we're in trouble. I'm just saying that the cost of living has gotten to a point where, you're just going to see all kinds of consequences. So we have to get back to doing what Kheprw is doing right now with food. That's a basic need of human beings. Just basic. We have to do something about our relationships between Black men and women. Over and over again, I'm hearing and seeing that schism that has been occurring. And, people say, oh, it's nothing but the devil. Well, you can call him or her what you want. It is having a detrimental impact on our families that schism exists, and it's not good.
Eunice,
Yes, sir.
would appreciate your sharing and your OG wisdom and the whole idea about family and modeling. I'm sitting here and a lot of times, even these young people on the call, they can think about what has brought them here often is not the school system education, but the education they got right there in their own communities and families. And I'm curious
Yeah.
if books played any role in your community and your family, and if so, how did you have access to them?
Well, again, I'm in an all-Black community with an all-Black library right down the street, a block away from my house. It's School 26. So we had great access to books. Now they might be raggedy, because that was what would happen in Black public schools. You get the secondhand raggedy book. So that means they might have had, drawings on pages or pages missing, but we still could read. And my parents made us read, and I think that's another big issue in terms of family. You have to sometimes make your children do things they don't want to do. but that's called being a parent. And so some kids don't have to be made to read uh, Brother Imhotep, but as you know, some kids do. But they have to be able to read things they like reading too. So See Jane Run might not be it, you know what I mean? It might be something about a car or a dog or science or something else on their level. But whatever it is, they need to be, required to do this.
Thank you.
I'm getting kids as interns, and these are kids who are in college. Ball State University, IU, Purdue, Notre Dame. And I didn't notice it the first year I ran this intern program here. But the next 2 years, because the program now, this is its fourth year, I had interns, college students who did not know how to write cursive. They couldn't do longhand writing, and that's because the schools quit teaching them. But the parents have to pick up on that. I mean, because these kids must, if they're going to go into many fields, they have to learn how to read cursive writing, you know. So I make them learn. I bought them third grade books, capital A, little a, capital B. That's how they start. And then I make them write every single day. And then I make them translate what I've written. And so that by the end of the summer, they've got a much better grasp. I'm not saying they're 100%, but they have a much better grasp of cursive writing. The schools aren't teaching them that anymore. What else are the schools not teaching? That's why we have to be responsible for our own people. We cannot rely on others to do it for us.
In that, us being our own bosses and doing for ourselves and, meeting those basic needs for ourselves, based off of your experience with the history of Garveyism and, other movements, how would you recommend we as a community and as a culture start to move towards that place of self-reliance and self-determination? Where would you start that path if you were starting fresh today?
Well, you're doing it right there, Kheprw, already. The kind of work Kheprw is doing, and I followed your work for a long time, is exactly the kind of work that needs to be done. But there needs to be more Kheprws. There needs to be a movement that is widespread doing the things that you're doing right there, Kheprw, right now. With the grant program that I run now, I had mentioned it to you early, we provide up to $30,000 in funding. But I have a rule, a criteria that I created. Nobody told me to. But that rule is this. And it's mostly churches, like I said, that get the money. But the church must be public facing. In other words, you cannot get grant funding from this program if all you do is have Sunday service and choir rehearsal and Bible study. You must be working in the community. I don't care what it is, feeding ministry, clothing ministry, tutoring, child care, whatever. But you must prove it. And we verify that. If you don't, you can't get funded.
Amen.
So those kind of criteria can be built around institutions like ours, like others, because we're not the only game in town that would have that requirement. And you can see some of that movement then taking place that would hopefully do these things that our communities need to have done in order for them to be, self-supporting, holding up our community ourselves.
Eunice, we've been
Yes, ma'am.
the June 19th celebration and that fabulous reception that looks like it's going to be big fun. I got 4 tickets myself. And
All right. Okay.
I was wondering, we've been running it in our weekly newsletter, and I was wondering
Thank you.
how's it going? How's the registration going?
Well, you know what? We've got room for 600 people. We have 50 registrations, so we need all the help we can get pushing that, particularly the paid part. Because, in the past years, I've used this as a fundraiser for the program, but this year I cut the tickets in half. So the ticket for the celebration includes a dinner, and we're having salmon, roast beef, I mean, like a real dinner, and drinks and live entertainment for
All for
25.
$25 a person?
Yes,
Yeah, because that's what I paid for the tickets.
yes, $25. So
Oh my
it's,
goodness.
so I wanted it to be affordable as possible. And I'm hoping that we can make up the difference in sponsorships. And we do have some sponsors, but it's not the traditional sponsors. It's individuals who are, sending 250, 500, 1,000 if they can, It's whatever people can do to support this because this is an important event, and it's definitely for a good cause. So I tell kids, I talk about the circulation of the dollar all the time to my kiddos, and I tell them in the Black community, the dollar circulates for guess how long? How long you think, Mimi?
30 minutes.
6 hours. 6 hours. In the white community, a month or more. And really, I've read things that said indefinitely. So that means 6 hours after you get your money, your pay on Friday, your payday, you are spending that money with somebody else. And I look at other communities, the Korean community, they get all of our fingernail money and our hair money, you know, uh, Indians, Middle Easterners, everybody, Latinos, everybody's getting our dollars but us. This period that we're living in has been the most devoid of entrepreneurship that I've ever seen in my life. If you think about it, at least on a grassroots level, on a day-to-day, you see that business operating level. It used to be here in Indianapolis that we had, if you had company come in town and you wanted to take them to hear some blues or R&B, live music, there were a number of places you could go. I ask people all the time, where do you go now that's Black owned, where you can hear some R&B or jazz or blues in a Black owned business? And it's always crickets because they've been all closed. They've all been closed. Restaurants, there were soul food, so-called restaurants all over the city. You can count them on one hand now. And then you really aren't sure, like Mississippi Bell's not Black owned. That's up on the northeast side. The food is cooked by Black people, but the business isn't Black owned. Yeah. So we're not doing good. I'll tell you what's happening though. The international Black community is coming in here being entrepreneurs. I have African friends now opening up businesses left and right. Just had one open up a restaurant over on 38th and Lafayette Road. And so they're coming in opening up businesses because they're not getting the traditional jobs that people have in corporate America here in Indiana. So they are opening up businesses.
Do you see any opportunities in the environment now that might change or alter that trajectory of us not really doing for self on a
Oh
larger
yeah.
scale?
Yeah. Because you know what? Hunger gonna make you do a lot of things. You know, need drives motivation. My own son, I tell him all the time, he's looking for a job. He's been looking for a job and looking for a job. I told him, why not have no one's grass cutting service? You know, I look at parking lots all over the city and there's trash on them. I said, I bet you could make a flyer, go in, make a business card, give that business your flyer, say, I'll clean your parking lot for $25 or 20 or whatever you want to do to get in the door. And have your trash bag, a dustpan, and a broom, and now you're in business. Cleaning parking lots. He was part of the Nation of Islam, so in his mind, entrepreneurship is selling papers and bean pies on the corner and taking half the money back to the mosque. I'm telling him you can keep all your money. You don't need to sell bean pies on the corner or get harassed by police for being there. Go get in business someplace. He's a very good spoken word artist. I tell him, put your poems in a book. I will help you get it published for free. Not that I would charge my son, but I'm just saying there are tools that you can use to publish for free. Then go sell your book of poetry. You make money selling your book, not a bean pie. So, yeah. But you get hungry enough, you're gonna start doing some stuff. Maybe it's not all good stuff, but you will start doing some stuff. As a people, we are very entrepreneurial as a people. We have our own economy. I remember, look, food stamps could do all kinds of things, and they still can, and they still do. But they just don't call them food stamps anymore. They're EBT cards, but they are a commodity. So I'm saying you get industrious when you get need. You get industrious. So, we've got this crazy man, running this world. It's going to make people, I couldn't believe gas $4.89 a gallon now, okay? I'm trying to wait until it drops before I buy some gas, but now I'm right. Because I have the need now, I've got to go ahead and bite the bullet and spend that money. But need makes you do things.
Ms. Trotter,
Yes, sir.
is vending space available for the Juneteenth event?
I did not do any vending at all because I didn't have the bandwidth to handle it. Because I'm pretty much a one-man band in this program. I have consultants, but I don't have staff. So I did not do any vending. Next year, though, I'm going to do an outdoor kind of on our plaza kind of a thing. But this year I didn't do it.
I think that brings up a great question though. Just related to, in your work and in the institutions you're looking to build inside of Indiana Landmarks and outside of it, where do you feel like you need the most support at this current moment? What kind of help would take what you're trying to do to the next level?
Well, I tell you, I'm always needing people to do the research work. Because before we can get a national register designation or a historic mark or any of that, we need the research done. That's number one thing that I need. And I pay researchers. It has to be academic level, meaning you have to have primary sources. Most of my researchers are not Black people. It's hard to get Black folk to do this because you got to buckle down and do it. But they are not Black people. I need people that would, help me manage things. Well, I need people to help me promote, just like with this Juneteenth event. Our marketing department is older, so they don't use the kind of platforms that a lot of our younger people especially use, like TikTok or Instagram or Snapchat. We use Facebook, but that's not the only game in town. So, I just talked to a woman today about creating a dynamic social media post for the event. Well, she wants $1,000 to do the work. She's a Black woman. I don't have $1,000 to pay her to put together a TikTok.
Wow.
Hmm?
I said,
Hmm?
wow.
I mean, I can put together TikTok, but that's not my strength either. She's the woman that I talked to is very creative, but I was disappointed that she said $1,000 to create a TikTok and push it out there. But that kind of stuff I'm always needing help doing. Right now I just finished creating a walking tour for Indiana Avenue using your cell phone, and it uses technology. I need testers to go out there and test it right now to get download the application and test it because we want to release it to the public, but it's got bugs. And the only way we know what the bugs are is when people tell us what they are and we correct those bugs. And so I wanted to release that in June, during Juneteenth, but we might have to hold it onto it because we need to put signage out and all that kind of stuff. But
J. Rue, would you please follow up
Yes, ma'am.
on this, how we can help, you know,
Oh, you
promote
know it.
that?
Yeah, most definitely. We will be following up. Also, Mimi, thank you. I see you in the chat. I did not see Carol popped in here, snuck in under the radar. I see you, Carol. So we're gonna have y'all check in, and we also have Synergy here in the building for Cafe Kumba. So today's check-in question, of course, is number color, and then a historical figure that inspired you. And I'll pass it to Carol first.
Okay, let's see. Hello. Good evening, y'all. Red clover, blossom pink. And number 7. Um, Historical figure would be uh Harriet Tubman. Yep. I'll pass it to you, Mr. Brother Synergy.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So color I'll say black, and then number infinity. I'll say two historical figures that have influenced me are my family members, John Spalding and James Spalding, a jazz musician, James Spalding, and sculptor and artist John Spalding, which they're in the Wikipedia. I don't think they get as much credit in the city, so I definitely have to mention their names. Yeah, so I did have a question, Miss Trotter, pertaining to you mentioned a lot of people that do the research are white people. So um, it makes me think, well, why is that? You know, have we ever asked them the question, what causes you to have that type of sustainability to go wherever you want, take the time, whatever time you want to do that type of research, and how can we do the same thing or even better?
yeah, well, that's a good question. And I have asked some of them that. Some of them are retired, so they have that time luxury. Jeff Strobel, whose name I put in the chat, he's retired. He's a retired history teacher, and he also just has just a passionate interest in history, even though he's no longer working. So, but a lot of Black people, they love history too. Uh, do they have the time? Maybe. I mean, you spend your time the way you want to, you know that. Whether we have time or not, I know I'm busy, 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 but I'm still going to do some of the things I want to do, even if it's 3 o'clock in the morning. If I really want to do it, I'm gonna do it. So yeah, I mean, it's just what are your priorities? If you don't see the importance of it, then you're less likely to want to prioritize it. And of course, there are people who are busy, and I don't knock anybody at all. Uh, I don't. Who doesn't have time to do what I need them to do. But I do know that we as a people definitely need to be more about our business in terms of documenting our history.
Yeah.
We definitely need to do that because it's being erased. Right
Yeah.
now, I just got a call this past week from Spencer County, Indiana. There in Spencer County is a black cemetery that is about to get built over by a highway. And so they called me to see if I knew of any significant historical significance there. Well, when they called me, I knew right away that there was something black going on, or they wouldn't have called me. And sure enough, I looked a little deeper into it and found out it's near Rockport, Indiana. Y'all heard of Rockport? So I found out. So I sent them a note saying, hey, there is a black cemetery there. We need to research it. So the state has hired a researcher and they're doing the research now. Um, and they don't have to dig deep because, Indiana had like 90 black settlements before the Civil War. So before 1865, there were 90 blacks, at least. We're finding more all the time. But, places like Roberts Settlement, Lau Station, Weaver Settlement, Lick Creek down in Orange County, and so forth. There were all of these little settlements that became abandoned. All the black people moved out. They either chased out or they involuntarily left to, come to the big city like Anderson, Indiana, or Indianapolis, or the larger cities. They left these small communities. And so the evidence of their existence usually is only a cemetery or, the remnants of a old one-room schoolhouse or the remnants of a church. There's a church down it was an antique shop. Now, I found a couple years ago in Hanover, Indiana, Hanover. It's down the southeast part of the state. It's a one-room antique shop that was a one-room colored school. Great shape. The owners kept it in perfect shape. But there it sits. It hasn't been open since the 1920s or 30s. It's been an antique shop down through the years. So, that's our history.
Mm.
That's our history.
Now
Well,
there
I'm
are
gonna ask. Oh,
just real quick, thank you. Now there are some places such as School 26, as you mentioned, that has the first black library in the state of Indiana. And then we have, the museum at Addicts, Crispus Addicts High School that has our history and culture. Um, Yet we don't necessarily, and we also have the Indianapolis Recorder. We have other individuals and organizations that hold dear our history, our culture, our heritage. Would you be? And then I think about Michael Collins when he embraces the life and the poetry of Etheridge Knight, Mari Evans. There are individuals that embrace her poetry, such as Allison Horton. And then I think about other people, but I may not necessarily know their names. And a lot of us don't know their names, but I think they should be known in order for us to know where to get the information, such as yourself. You're very informative about this information. So would you happen to know of some people that we could, take notes from?
Well, there's a lot of folks out there that know history. We are currently conducting an oral history drive all over the state. We're interviewing Black elders, and they're telling us their stories, and it's just fascinating. Right now, you can go to the Indiana Memory website. That's part of the state library system, Indiana Memory, and then look under Indiana Landmarks Black Oral History Collection. And that's where we're putting all of these interviews that we're doing. And I tell you, I love this work because I learn something new every day. And when you talk to an elder who's got a sharp memory, and even if their memory isn't so sharp, they know enough that they give you something by the time they get through talking to you. This history we're collecting. People say, what are you going to do with it? Well, it doesn't matter what we're going to do with it. At least we've got it. It's sort of like the old WPA interviews that were done back in the 1930s and 40s of former slaves. That information is being used today. Look how many decades later, in all kind of research. So, but yep. Thank you, Mimi. It's yeah. She just put the link in the chat. But so we are collecting interviews right now. We're talking to these people 20 minutes, 30 minutes, doing a video and audio interview with them, and they're just telling us all kind of stuff. So, there are people out there, Synergy, who know the stuff. It's just a matter of connecting with them and then doing some work yourself. I love reading old Indianapolis recorders. The recorders are all digitized online. So at any time of the day or night, whenever you feel like it, you can go online and read what happened in 1910, 1915, 1930. You can educate yourself. You don't have to have it come in secondhand. You can find out what was reported back then. So, it's not only a good genealogy tool, but it's a good just history, educational tool to go back and look at those papers. Those newspapers I call the first draft of a history book because often, historians gather their information from sources like that, newspapers, court records, and so forth. But yeah, you can find out what was going on, and that gives you a basis for comparison of what's happening today. It was so funny because last night I was reading an old recorder from 1910 or 12, something like that. And guess what? It was talking about youth crime. And it was saying that the crime was rampant. And I think there had been like 20 murders or something the whole year compared to what we have today. It was just so interesting to see that the same issues we were dealing with back then, we're still dealing with today. It's just fascinating. So, yeah, but Synergy, go get it yourself. You don't have to wait anybody to give it to you. Like James Brown, I don't want nobody to give me nothing.
I did want to make
I
sure,
wanted
Miss
to ask
Mamana,
you,
oh, go for it.
yeah, I wanted to ask you, you talked about resilience. So I wanted to know if you could share what you do, I guess, to feed your soul and keep you resilient and what you suggest others do.
Do you want me to answer truthfully or do you want me to answer professionally?
I want you to tell us the truth.
Look, I gamble, smoke, drink, curse, stay out all night long. My husband's deceased, so I might be a cougar too. I do whatever I want to do that doesn't hurt somebody.
Mhm.
I do exactly what I want to do that does not hurt another person. I believe in God. I have a strong faith. I'm very active in my church. So I go out all night Saturday and go fall on my knees on Sunday and pray and say, "Oh Lord, have mercy on me." But I do what I want to do. And I'm a two-time cancer survivor. And I know that cancer is a result of inflammation. And I know that stress causes inflammation, along with some other things like diet and, other stuff. But stress is a big one. So I try not to let anybody stress me. I see it coming, I go the other way. That includes everybody, my kids, my grandkids, my boss, my look, don't stress me. I'm gonna give you stress, but don't give me none. I'm out. So, but you've got to take care of yourself. Your self-love. I mean, I'm not a fanatic about it. I go on cruises. I love the water. That's my happy place. So I love the ocean. So I need to go to the ocean periodically. And I go sit there. And I used to, because I've been married all my life, it felt like. Now I don't have a husband, so I would not go any place by myself because I can't go by myself. Well, I broke that up, and I tell you what, I have the best time and no witnesses. I have a good time.
Yeah, I
So
did
yeah,
my first solo trip like a couple years ago. I gotta amen
did you?
that. Yes, go on a trip by yourself. Do it. Do it.
Yeah, you do it. You do it. I didn't. I didn't do it. I was just really intimidated about doing it, but I did. Like I said, I like it like that. So yeah, yeah, it's you got to take care of yourself. You gotta do what you love. If you don't love it, at least you don't like it. Don't do it. That's everything. That if you don't like it, don't do it. Don't do it.
I think
If
that
it's
is
something that
a
has to be
great.
done, let somebody do it.
Uh, does anybody else have any last like comments or questions? We are coming up on time. I think that was a great question to end it off on, but do want to keep the door open if folks still have something they wanted to get off. I gotta agree, Rasul. Truly an iconic answer, and I appreciate you for keeping it real at all times, Miss Trotter. That was beautiful, and I think we need more of that in this space. In the community work, I think we forget to have fun with it and take care of ourselves, and that we can drink and smoke and be cougars and whatever. Just
I'm
have
not
some
gonna live
fun
that
with
one
it. You
down.
know what I
Look,
mean?
I'm not gonna live that one down. I tell you already. I
We'll
already
take
know.
that off the we'll take that off the recording so nobody sees
Okay,
it.
do
Okay,
that.
I
No,
got you.
don't do
Yeah,
it.
we
Don't
gotta
do
we
it.
gotta
No.
protect.
To the porch. Don't be surprised if someone on this call sees you coming out and goes, "Hey,
Oh, hey.
Junior."
Look, I just joined a sorority of all these young, because I was not a sorority girl at all. So I just joined a sorority. So I'm the oldest one in the whole country, I think, in this sorority. But I have a great time with them. So I like to hang out with my younger sisters. I have a great time. And so they're teaching me a lot. So
Oh,
just
no
because you're
doubt.
older, no doubt, they sure are. They teach me a lot. Sometimes I'm surprised. I'm like, what? You what? But I'm
Hey,
good.
intergenerational relationships come at you from all kinds of places you would never expect.
You're
Even
right.
the
You are
sorority.
so right. You are right. I have friends of all races, hues, colors, sexual orientations, languages, backgrounds, and everything else you could think of. So I have a good, rich life.
Period. Well, we'll go ahead and close it out there. Please, everybody, give a warm round of applause for Miss Trotter coming in. Again, Miss
Thank you
Trotter is the
all.
director of Indiana Landmarks Black Heritage Preservation Program. Definitely be sure to RSVP for their Juneteenth Black Wealth, Black Power
Thank you.
event. Again, that's on Juneteenth at 5 o'clock at Indiana Landmarks. We will have the link in the recording, in the description somewhere. So, folks, definitely please RSVP for that event.
Now,
Show them some love. And yes, M.
quickly, don't forget, shout out, get on the social media, get those tickets sold. Garvey lives.
Garvey
Garvey
lives.
lives. Yes,
Garvey
sir.
lives.
And if you think
Garvey
Garvey
lives.
lives, please go to donate.kepra.org and show how much you love to support institutions that are doing for us, by us at all times. So again, go to donate.kepra.org, show us some love,
Amen.
and we'll see you guys next week for our education series of Mumbo Jumbo with Khalil in Africa and Wise Logic. It'll be a great one as always. So tune in next week. Also, shout out to the Indianapolis Recorder for having us on their platform, spreading the word, showing us some love at all times, keeping it live. Appreciate y'all. We'll see you guys in a week.
Hey,
Bye.
can I
Thank
get
you.
those links? Mimi put in some great links. When Eunice called out something, Mimi went and found the link and put it in about her great 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 grandmother and somebody else's issue. Can I get a copy of those links, please? I certainly would like to have them.
The chat will be saved, and I will make sure that all of those links are made available to the group.
Thank you.
Right
Yep,
on.
All right.
anytime.
Well, thank you
Good
all.
night,
Thanks for having me,
everybody.
Good
everybody.
Thank
night,
you so
y'all. Appreciate
much.
everybody.
Thank you, Miss
All right.
Trotter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Good night.
Catch you
Yeah.
later.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Oopsie.